Welcome everyone to the 12-Step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa, and I have been a student of the 12 Steps method of recovery for decades. I began with Alateen, Coda, Al-Anon, and OA. The only requirement for attendance is an honest desire to be freed. This workshop is not allied with any specific fellowship. We wish simply to be helpful to those who are suffering from the unmanageability in our lives. So please join me in the set-aside prayer with the willingness to have an open mind and an open heart. We're in the grace of release as we tackle the fourth step and our lovely resentments. So God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my step 4, my resentments, so that I may have a new experience in my life with my unmanageability, and especially with you. So as we all know, we're still tackling the fourth step. It definitely is one of those steps that needs a few nights just to focus on how much is involved in it. And for tonight, our homework was pages 66 and 67, so it wasn't too consuming. And we're going to continue examining column 3, which is going to be our primary focus on uncovering and accessing our truths. So to assist you with this, I'm going to share a tool straight from the Big Book that will help you effectively process and manage the information we uncover in the third columns. Ultimately, this work is about examining our self-esteem to figure out who we really are, what we honestly think, and what we blindly believe. And underneath all the excuses and delusions, we tell ourselves the deeper, we tell ourselves lies about the deeper truth. We do not truly know who we are until we adopt a set-aside attitude by practicing the set-aside prayer and putting real effort into unpacking the answers on the column 3 worksheet. So I'm going to clear the air a little bit. I want everybody to just take a pause. We're going to clear away all our old ideas and assumptions and just take a couple of deep breaths. Maybe get yourself positioned in the seat so you feel comfortable. Just take a few deep breaths so that we can start in a nice, calm environment. We can feel safe enough to open up to each other, or at least to ourselves and our higher power. So, dear higher power, please help us set aside everything we thought we knew about who we are in our resentments, so that we have open minds and new experiences with reality and truth. Through this process, we are gaining a clearer understanding of our core beliefs regarding ourselves, others, and life itself. Ultimately, this work helps us begin to recognize how much of this internal programming has remained hidden from our conscious awareness and is directly fueling our resentments. This is the reason we have to remove the resentments. Often, it takes layers over time. So gaining this awareness serves as the foundation for true humility, which gives us the willingness to confront our most deeply buried resentments. Bill structured the Big Book with an extraordinary understanding of human behavior and the psychology of learning. By masterfully organizing the process, he ensures we thoroughly grasp column 3 before we attempt to tackle column 4. We're close to moving forward, but we must fully understand our internal reactions first. Only then will the fourth column provide the complete, unobstructed picture of our patterns. As Bill notes on page 66, this world and its people are often quite wrong. For now, your task is to look at your inventory from a purely external perspective. Ask yourself, who harmed you? Exactly what they did and how it impacted you. and we will examine it strictly from the outside in, moving from the world's actions to their direct impact on us. On page 66, Bill writes, "To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever has gotten." This mindset is incredibly true today in our modern culture of victimhood. The tragic result is that people, we believe, keep hurting us and we stay perpetually angry. This sounds simple, but when you really sit with it, you see the truth. If you do not change your own attitude or behavior, your experience of the world and yourself will never change. You might wonder if you should put yourself on your own resentment list when you realize you are furious at your own actions. And the answer is absolutely yes. Bill endorses this in the big book, writing, "Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got." So this serves as a vital reminder that our ultimate root problem is our own selfishness and self-centeredness. The fourth step is the very first step in actively committing to in writing. Bill warns us of the futility of holding on to anger, stating, "As in war, the victim only seemed to win. It was a delusion. Our moments of triumph were short-lived." He dives deeper into the destructive nature of these feelings, writing, "It is plain that a life which includes deep resentments only leads to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile." So here Bill is reminding us that resentments come in all sizes. Not every grievance is a massive, devastating shark bite. Some are minor irritations like the mosquito bites or bee stings that still leave us chronically agitated. Ultimately, it is clear that living with deep resentment always leads to futility, unhappiness, and for the addict or alcoholic, a guaranteed relapse back into using. On page 66, Bill writes, "It is plain that a life that includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness." Once you complete the third column, or even just look at your initial list, the truth becomes undeniable. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. Our ultimate goal is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. If you have a moment, read pages 84 and 85, where it explains that we've entered the world of the spirit, and that our lifelong task is to consistently build on that spiritual foundation. The more I study the big book, the more the internal consistency and profound integrity of its design completely blow me away. Bill highlights the high stakes of this work by writing, "But with the alcoholic or addict, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave." And he isn't exaggerating or using cheap scare tactics here. He immediately follows that warning with a definitive, chilling truth. We found that it is fatal. And make no mistake about it, harboring resentment will either kill you or turn your daily existence into a living hell. So when we harbor intense anger and resentment, we actively shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. Bill used this imagery to explain how negative emotions, fear, and self-will act as a dense emotional barrier. This blockage completely cuts us off from our higher power, the Father of Light, and the essential spiritual guidance we need to survive. When this barrier becomes strong enough, it inevitably drives an addict back to active use, making these hidden resentments absolutely lethal. Deep down, our souls are built to thrive in that spiritual sunlight, but the heavy clouds of resentment, fear, and dishonesty cast a shadow over our lives, leaving us to struggle and live in the darkness. You can use these few questions to evaluate how this resentment cuts you off from your higher power. How does harboring this specific anger shut me off from the sunlight of the Spirit? What specific clouds, meaning resentment, fear, or dishonesty, am I choosing to hold on to right now instead of surrendering them? And lastly, am I willing to say the set-aside prayer and ask for a completely new perspective on this situation today? So when we neglect our recovery, the insanity of addiction returns. Bill describes this insanity as a mental obsession so powerful that our own willpower is utterly useless against it. The Big Book explicitly reminds us that we are never permanently cured. Instead, we are granted a daily reprieve that depends entirely on our spiritual condition. In step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, which gave us our very first taste of protection against that fatal obsession. But that protection is not permanent. It acts as a spiritual shield that requires active maintenance. That's where step 10, 11, and 12 are the direct actions that keep the defenses intact. If we lose our diligence and stop practicing these daily steps, our spiritual shield wears thin or cracks, exposing our minds once again to the raw vulnerability of the obsessions. When that shield breaks down, we inevitably will use again. Make no mistake, for us to relapse is to die. We always suffer a quiet spiritual death long before we ever physically pick up the substance. Back in 1939, when Bill wrote these words, this connection might have seemed like mere speculation. But today, it is an undeniable truth. Modern medicine and statistics provide overwhelming scientific evidence of the absolute chaos, devastation, and physical fatality that active addiction creates in our lives. Bill then says, if we were to live, now let's be clear about what he means here. He's not talking about simply managing our addictions or getting by. He means surviving and living our lives on reasonable terms. To do that, we absolutely must be free of anger and every single synonym for resentment. This isn't some corporate brainstorm in a boardroom where we are looking for creative ideas. This is a sandstorm, the kind of violent desert storm that destroys and kills everything in its wake. Bill writes that the grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men. Well, let's face it. We wouldn't be sitting here in this workshop today if we were normal men and women. We might be completely abstinent right now, and we might even be spiritually fit for a short or a long time, but we are never truly normal at any juncture. We have all suffered from addiction, which means normalcy is off the table for us, and it always will be. And Bill tells us that we have to concede to our innermost selves that the delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, must be smashed. Look at that word, presently. That is the lie we tell ourselves, and it needs to be completely destroyed. This fourth step is the systematic smashing of the false self. It is the shattering of the ego, the disintegration of the persona, and the stripping away of the masks that we wear. For years, we built up this massive wall as a survival mechanism, completely blind to the fact that the entire structure has a boomerang effect. Now, instead of a wall that protects us from the world, it has become our own prison. If it has become our home, and it has turned our lives into a permanent war zone. On page 66, Bill instructs us, we turn back to the list. He is sending us right back to our original inventory because that piece of paper holds the exact key to our future freedom. He continues, we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. Up until now, we have only looked at our history from a surface level, focusing strictly on who did what to us and how much it hurt us. We've carried that victim narrative our entire lives. But right here, Bill changes the game. He effectively says, I want you to isolate the deep ones. And to do this properly, we must create a separate, much smaller list of our heaviest, most toxic grievances. Initially, out of a standard list of maybe 25 resentments, I had exactly 8 of these deep ones. My ex-husband, 3 of my siblings, my sister-in-law, and my parents. These weren't just superficial, everyday annoyances. These 8 relationships were defined by a smoldering, hot lava rage. On page 66, Bill writes, we began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. This is exactly what columns 1 and 2 show us. He then delivers a sobering truth. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill us. Notice how Bill specifically uses the phrase fancied or real. What does that actually mean? Did the event itself even happen? Of course, your feelings and your pain are real, and your emotional reaction is absolutely real. But did the offense have any actual basis in reality? This is precisely where the power of the 4th column comes into play. When I finally sat down and wrote out my own inventory, the hard data didn't lie, even though I hated what I saw. About 30% of the resentments on my list had 0 standing in reality. My own distorted, delusional thinking had completely manufactured them. Now, we don't need to waste a lot of time analyzing the how or the why behind those distortions. The only thing that matters is recognizing that those grievances were complete fiction. On page 66, Bill also asks a vital question. How could we escape? We saw that resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. What Bill is trying to convey here is a profound truth that many of us miss. We are just as utterly powerless over the removal of our resentments as we are over managing our addictions. You cannot simply use willpower to force a deep grudge out of your mind. The entire concept of step 1, body, mind, and spirit, proves that when it comes to these deep, heavy resentments, we have absolutely no choice. We are trapped. But here is the miracle of the design. I truly believe that when we finally do the turnaround and look at the 4th column, our real role is exposed. The moment you face your own part, the entire resentment is instantly neutralized by the power of the truth. And according to the spiritual mechanics of this program, Bill makes it clear that we absolutely must have God's help. He directs us to a massive shift in perspective. We have to realize that the very people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick themselves. This realization is exactly what drives our desperate need for a higher power, because we cannot change our own twisted attitudes on our own strength. Now, left to my own devices, I could easily make a conscious choice to take the so-called high road, to sit on a pedestal of self-righteousness and look down on those wretched souls because they are spiritually sick. But that kind of ego-driven pity does not sit well with Bill. He knows precisely how our addictive minds operate. On page 67, he levels the playing field entirely, writing, Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. And let that sink in for a moment. They, like ourselves, are sick too. It forces us to look in the mirror and admit the hardest truth of all. I am sick too. We are sick too. My perception is distorted. I don't see quite right, and there is something fundamentally unmanaged inside of me. And Bill is getting right to the absolute heart of the matter now. He's hitting the bullseye. He writes, "We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend." Now, as we've noted on more than one occasion, whenever Bill suggests that you talk to God, what he's actually talking about is praying. When he says we ask God now, he is presenting us with a very serious spiritual directive. It is incredibly important to understand the true mechanics of what is happening here. This is not about praying for the other person to change or to get better or to fix their behavior. This is entirely about praying for ourselves. This prayer is meant to alter our own twisted perceptions and heal our own sick hearts. If you went into this thinking you were praying for someone else's benefit, you would sadly be completely wrong. And if you thought this prayer was for someone else, you would be completely wrong. Let's read that line again, because this is not what the text is saying at all. It explicitly states, we ask God to help us show them. Do you see the mechanics there? I am asking God to intervene within me so that I can be granted freedom from the bondage of this resentment. I am praying that my higher power helps me extend the exact same tolerance, pity, and patience that I would certainly convey to a very dear friend. This is an internal cry. God, please change my attitude, my perspective, my feelings, and my behavior. The big book tells us exactly how to handle it when a person has offended us. We say to ourselves, this is a spiritually sick person. How can I be helpful to them? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. And Bill says we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. Think about how naturally compassionate you are when you walk into a hospital to visit a loved one. You look around at all the patients in need, and even though you don't know them personally, your heart breaks for them. You want to help every single one of them, and even when you can't do it physically, you quietly send them prayers for their highest good. But if we turn around and treat spiritually sick people with disdain, we completely destroy any possibility of being helpful to them. Bill emphasizes the absolute necessity of helpfulness dozens of times throughout the big book because helpfulness is our true purpose. It is the ultimate antidote to our addiction. Our fundamental human nature is to be helpful, even to complete strangers. We might not have the capacity to physically help every single person we encounter, but our higher power will always guide us to a place where we can view each one of them through a lens of kindness and love. For many years, my sister and I began a Thanksgiving tradition to teach our young children kindness, and we would drive into Boston to deliver food to people who refused to go to the homeless shelters. And one year I met a very bright-eyed man in his 70s. He was sitting on a park bench in Boston Common. When I asked how he felt about being homeless, his response shattered my worldview. He said, "My purpose in life is to sit on this bench." He said, "I touch more lives in a single day than most people do in a lifetime. People look at me and they bring their empathy. I am changing attitudes one person at a time." I had arrived pitying a man I thought was squandering his life, only to find a soul using his time with profound wisdom. That day, I realized he saw his circumstances not as a curse, but as a gift of perspective. And that perception is the ultimate key to change. So Bill writes, we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. Think about how naturally compassionate you are when you walk into the hospital, like I said. When it comes to the people who have offended us, we forget they are suffering from a spiritual illness. If we treat these spiritually sick people with disdain, we completely destroy any possibility of being helpful with them. Our core human nature is to be helpful, even to those we don't know. While we might not have the capacity to physically save everyone that we run into, we at least try to go out of our way for the few that we do meet. As easily as walking up to somebody in the grocery store who can't reach something on the shelf. That's a kindness that we can show people. So when we look for the places to be kind, there's places for us to practice everywhere. So once your list is complete, you must begin a daily prayer practice specifically focused on the freedom from the removal of these resentments. Let me be clear about the mechanics here. The number of resentments you hold would dictate the exact number of prayers you will say each day. Each grievance requires its own dedicated focus on that specific person, institution, or ideal. In fact, some of your heaviest resentments will be so massive that you'll need to break them down into separate sub-prayers, such as A, B, and C, just to cover all of the wreckage. And this daily prayer for removal is an absolutely vital step in the recovery process. Time and again, I work with people who are desperately struggling to release their anger. And when I ask them if they are actually saying the prayer for release every single day, more often than not, they look at me blankly and ask, "What prayer?" Let me give you the hard truth. No prayer, no removal. Your own willpower cannot force a resentment out of your mind. Only your higher power can remove it. And we give our dynamic consent for that removal through the action of daily prayer. And don't be surprised if while digging into your deepest resentments, a wave of hidden, buried anger suddenly resurfaces. Do not let that panic you, and do not let it stop you. Keep pushing through and keep praying, because before you know it, you will find yourself completely free of that burden. Remember, this is a lifelong process. Life doesn't pause just because we are doing this internal work. New resentments are going to crop up as you move forward, but the difference is they will no longer look like devastating shark bites. Instead, they will feel like minor mosquito bites. Why? Because through this inventory, you are finally learning exactly where your internal discomfort comes from, and the answer is always going to be the same. Eventually, your awareness will become so sharp that you will recognize a resentment the exact moment it starts to build in your chest, allowing you to use these tools and nip it in the bud before it takes over. And of course, you guys all know that's the 10th step spot check that you should be doing every day. And I'd like to make a special point about trauma. There is a critical difference regarding abuse when the resentment is toward an abuser. This framework requires careful interpretation and must be handled with a sponsor who understands trauma. The distinction is not to find a mistake in being abused, but in how the addict has reacted to the trauma and allowed it to affect their life. The intent is never to blame the victim for the abusive event. Experienced sponsors will never suggest that a survivor had a part in the abuse itself. Instead, the focus is on the survivor's own subsequent behavior, such as using the trauma as a pretext to keep using or taking anger out on other people. The mistake is holding on to the resentment. For a trauma survivor, the mistake is often defined as allowing the memories of the event to fuel resentment and continue poisoning their life long after the abuse has occurred. The goal is to release the abuser's effect and reclaim one's own happiness in spite of the events. Bill's core message regarding forgiveness is that you let go of resentments for your own sake, not for the benefit of the other person. Forgiveness as a gift is a gift to yourself. Holding on to bitterness can destroy an addict's recovery faster than anything else. The resentment prayer asks that you pray for the person you resent, requesting for their health, their prosperity, their happiness. This act is not for the perceived abuser, but for the addict, as it frees us from the control of anger. Because the 12 steps are not a trauma-informed program, many members find it necessary to seek external help to process the trauma of abuse. The path to healing from abuse involves addressing the root trauma, which is outside of AA's primary purpose. Many survivors in any fellowship find licensed therapists invaluable for safely processing these experiences. So this is a revised, highly effective daily prayer to find true freedom from the bondage of resentment. While the core wording comes straight from the big book, it's been cleaned up based on real feedback from people in groups just like ours. The prayer is, God, Drew's our sample guy. Drew, like me, is a spiritually sick person. Please help me to show Drew true tolerance, compassion, and patience. Save me from being angry and enable me to release this resentment. Let that sink in. This is a prayer for your healing. The anger you carry about your person, like Drew, belongs to you, and it requires deep soul surgery. You're asking your Creator to enter your heart, your emotions, and your memories to cut out this toxic garbage. Choosing to release someone is the direct pathway to genuine forgiveness. By saying this prayer, you are asking your higher power to show you exactly how to remain kind and tolerant toward your person, how to radically accept reality as it stands, and how to be helpful to them. We close the prayer with, "Thy will be done," because this isn't about trying to control God or demand a specific outcome. It is a declaration that you are expanding your consciousness and surrendering your own ideas of what should happen. The truth is, we don't know what is best for everyone involved. By using our free will to say, "Thy will be done," we consciously align ourselves in perfect harmony with the universe. Do not put this off. Countless people who have committed to this practice have found absolute freedom. At this time, we can open up the floor to share customized prayers if you guys have done your homework, that you've written for your own resentments. Look at the character drawings, if anybody brought their drawings of your false selves, and answer any questions you have about completing column 3. This is my revised version. So this is on the left, you see, this is the one that is kind of basic, general, and on the right is how I revised it to incorporate the resentment that I was experiencing. And then this is a sample of column 3 from my mother. I did a mother resentment recently and thought it was worthwhile to share because a lot of people struggle with the resentments towards their parents. We feel like we're not honoring them or being loving and kind or being judgmental, whatever comes up for you. So if anyone has column 3 questions and you want to look at this sample and point something out or let me know, I can leave it up there for a little bit. If not, um, I can take it down, whatever you guys need.
Okay. Well, I did the homework, and I have to tell you, on page 66, the first line, second paragraph, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. And then go to page 67 at the top. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. And this, I had a very deep resentment toward my twin sister. I thought she was greedy, narcissistic, self centered, um, shallow, all of these things. And I had such a deep, deep resentment toward her. And, I filled out the column 3 and I put it all in column 3. And then when I did column 4, and I was the abused sister. I was undervalued and I wasn't respected. And then when I got that was my delusional thinking, because when I got down to my real role at the reality, boy, I'm shallow, I'm self-absorbed, I'm self-centered, I'm greedy. All the things that I hated in her are in me. And that blew my mind, just blew me away. And the resentment is it's not entirely gone, but my goodness, not I do not feel toward her the way I did. And it's a miracle. It really is. And I would like to encourage anybody who is, apprehensive about doing this work. It is mind blowing, and it is so it's such a spiritual awakening and a spiritual experience. I can't tell you how happy I am that I've done it.
I'm so happy to hear it too, Carol, because I know you've struggled a lot with your sister. And tell me, did you use the prayer?
I did.
Good,
I absolutely did. I,
good.
I used the prayer, and it's interesting because I went to see the Odyssey with her yesterday, and all the behaviors that she used to have that used to drive me crazy. I just laughed. I laughed about it. I can't tell you. It's an enormous freedom, and I'm very grateful. Grateful to you, and grateful to Bill W. and grateful for the 12 steps.
And I'm grateful that you're sharing that because it's so important for other people to see that some of this work that is so hard to do, if you can just get through the work and come out on the other side,
It's
like you said, it's paradise. It's incredible.
it's worth
And
it.
tell people how long you struggled with your sister. How long have you been struggling?
Oh my goodness! I mean, I've until this year.
Yeah,
So this year, I just had such hatred of those characteristics, and to really have that turnaround and understand that I'm as sick as she is. Oh my gosh, it just freed me. It just freed me from that resentment. It was wonderful, and of course, saying the resentment prayer, it works. You have
it
to
does.
say it, you have to do it, and you have
Mhm.
to have that turnaround.
Yep, fantastic.
Is
Sorry.
people who I'm backing out of a space and people are whipping around me and whipping around me and whipping around me. And I think especially as an older person, I'm trying to make sure I'm not going to hit the person who's walking behind my car on his cell phone who has no clue he's in a parking lot. I don't want to hit the other people that are driving by. And then I spend time after that about those damn people, and and then I say to and I think a large part of this resentment thing is how I'm 78. So how much of my life do I want to give up um, on active resentment? And when I say active, I mean with them living, like they would say, rent free in my head. Either the people that are cutting me off or the family or friends or people in my life. Because I try to remember this. I cannot get time back. I wish I was younger when I realized that, but I'm not going to get this time back. So the time I spent, and I'm not going to turn those people into better drivers. In my mind, they should be better drivers or more alert or whatever. I am not going to turn them into what I want, and I'm not going to turn the people in my family into what I want. And I don't have any sisters, so I feel kind of like, oh, I don't know if I should be here today. But it's for me, it's a lot about time, and I think it's because I realized how old I am, and I'm not going to get this time back, and I waste a lot of time on resentments. I mean, I just do. So I really want to thank everybody here for your honesty. I mean, it's just been terrific.
I have a little bit of a driving issue myself. I get
Mm.
it's one of my very lingering shortcomings. I just get pissed off if people don't go as fast as they should, or they're in front of me and won't move. And like you say, I can sit there and I know what I'm doing is crazy, and I continue to do it. But I've really been trying to address it because it's actually a dangerous way to live. I actually believe if I get up close enough, they're going to get out of my way, and they never do. So it's,
I will just say that having only been to Boston and your area one time and living in Los Angeles, I thought the drivers where you I would have a huge resentment. I think our drivers are tame compared to yours. Yours are like, bang, right there on your tail, It
yeah.
was probably you, Lisa. I didn't even think
Yeah,
about that.
I'm the head of the club of bad Boston drivers, actually. They love me there. But no,
The
I do
fingers
have,
point back at you, right, Lisa? You were
yeah,
just
yeah,
saying that.
yeah. And I'm not going to deny it. I am fully admitting that I need to address my Boston driving habits. Um, but it's one of those things where I sit in the car and I yell at these people and I beep my horn. If they don't pull off from the red light, once it turns green, I'm like, what the hell are you waiting for? I mean, I'm a crazy person in the car. So it's on my list of I really have to work on this because um it's costing me, like you said, Rochelle. And I agree, as I get older, I realize I'm not getting any of this back. This is not a dress
Nope.
rehearsal. And it does become more urgent, and I think I work harder because of the time factor. If I was doing this in my 20s, well, I was doing it in my 20s. I was very blasé about it. It was like, well, if I go to a meeting, I go to a meeting, and if I don't, who cares, Now it's imperative for the quality of my life. And I would bet everyone in these fellowship rooms feels the same way, that they wish they had gotten their recovery quicker. It's a common theme that it's just part of the process. But I will work on my driving issue. And maybe you'll come and visit me and drive with me.
Lisa, do you say the resentment prayer there in the moment, or?
I do a quick 10-step, and sometimes
Oh.
I will drive by them because they'll turn or something, and then I will give them the peace sign because I've already given them the finger, and I feel a little bad.
So you're not like actively praying in that moment to have God remove
Oh
the
no, no, no.
resentment.
I'm too busy
Right.
beeping
Yeah.
and
You're
yelling.
into it. You're liking it.
I actually I get a very vicarious thrill out of it. I can't
Exactly.
deny
I
it.
know.
Yeah,
We all do. Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
It's yeah,
Thank you.
it's a bad thing. Yeah. My daughter lives in Tennessee, and Seiza knows I visit her in Tennessee, and I can't believe how they drive there. I'm like, why aren't these people beeping? Why aren't they yelling at each other? Why are they going through the lights so slow? But I'll work on it. But recently, my mother took a fall, and she is now in rehab, soon to go to a nursing home. And I am very grateful for that because she does need to be in a facility. But thinking about her and all of this, and a lot of people have been asking me about the mother or father resentment sheets, I decided it was a good time to do this. And through my mother's illness with her dementia, I started to look at my mother differently, in more of a realistic way than I had probably for my whole life. The alcoholic in my family was my father, so my mother looked like the hero. And she did make herself out to be that way. He was the bad guy. So I'm resentful towards my mother for not taking care of me during traumatic events, which would be events from living with an active alcoholic. So my self-esteem, what is my deep belief about who I am? And people get hung up on this one because they don't want to talk about who they really think they are. They might feel a little embarrassed or whatever. But Herb says really build it up and expand that definition of who you are. And I have found that when people do expand it, myself included, it gets pretty true to the answer. This is really how we do feel deep buried down inside. So don't shy away from really expanding that I am answer. I wrote, I am an open and honest, kind, accepting daughter who handles the truth, whether good or bad, with grace and allows others to be who they need to be.
Lisa, can I ask a
Yes,
question to interject a
sure.
question? What if what if your self-appraisal in the I am is negative? What if it's exactly the opposite of a honest, kind, accepting daughter? And you were to say, I'm a lousy, miserable, I mean, how does that, you know, what then becomes your fear?
So
That it's the
uh,
truth, that's the truth.
so this is the third column, Joel. And when we're in the third column, we're in our beliefs, not necessarily the truth. And when we get to the fourth column, that's when the truth comes out. And I find out I am not an open, honest, kind, accepting daughter. So it is coming. It just, we're not there yet. We're still in that delusional state that we've been in that keeps us in addiction. So when we write the I am, we really want to expand it. And if you struggle with it, um, just start adding stuff that's really positive about maybe who you'd want to be, or at least what you'd want to be seen as. Um, and then for the fear, I wrote, I am not worthy of the truth. I am not able to handle the truth. That's what I'm afraid of. Then we have the pride. And if you notice on the left, I put these flags or arrows, and if each one, the I am is number one, I want is number two, I'd like is my ambition, I need is my security. So I think those little arrows can help you as you're answering the questions. My pride, this is how I want people watching to see me being treated by my mother. So others should see my mom treating me as a cherished, loved, respected, supportive, deserving, strong woman and loving daughter. I'm afraid others will actually see the effect the lying has had on my psyche and that I am oppressed by a lying addict. My ambition, this is what I'd like to have happen. What I'd like to see happening instead, I want my mom to treat me like I am the most wonderful, important, and respected child in her life. But I'm afraid, I missed one here, but I'll fill it in. I'm afraid that my mother will never see me that way and she'll never respect me like she does my siblings. That's my fear. My security. What would it take for me to be okay with this situation? What does the offender need to do to end this resentment? Well, I need my mom to stop telling lies about me, respect me as her loving daughter who deserves the world because I am wonderful. And why do I need this? I need this so that I feel safe and protected in my world because I accept other poor relationships due to her inability to be a good mother. And what am I afraid of? I I'm afraid I will not be able to have a healthy relationship with myself or her, and I will walk away with regret. Number 5 is personal relationships. How do I expect this relationship should be? I expect mothers should love their children unconditionally, support their ups and downs to get them through their dilemmas. And I'm afraid I have fooled myself into believing she loves me unconditionally and doesn't believe in me. Gender relations. What are my beliefs and or about men or women and the roles they play? I expect an ideal man or woman should always be, so ideal mothers are loving, kind, supportive, protective to all of their children. They don't pit them against each other and love them individually and tend to their childhood needs. And my fear is she was never a good mother figure, and I suffered beyond allowing an amends. And pocketbook. So this is where did it cost me to have this going on in my life? And I checked all of the boxes because not having a supportive mother affected every area of my life. So I checked them all. Because I believe if you have a supportive mother, you can tackle things like financial security, emotional security, all those things. And then my fear is these behaviors will permanently damage me and I won't be able to see my value or lovability due to the damage she caused me, which makes me accept poor people as replacements. So then we go on to the next one, which is the 4th column. And this is critical because this is where I'm going to take responsibility for my part in this situation. So we look honestly at our own actions and we're going to basically ask ourselves, where was I dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, frightened? I got to focus on my mistakes, my character defects. So when I resent mom for not taking care of me as a child, I believe, do you have a question, Mark? Go ahead.
No, I wanted to go after you're done.
Okay. So I believe I am the uncared for child. Self-seeking behavior, things I do. So remember, self-seeking is actions. It's things that we do. So when I'm feeling this resentment, I act like I am unlovable with everyone. I argue and test people's loyalty to prove the lies are the truth because I would rather be right than happy. Self-centered thinking is selfish thinking, and it's about your thoughts. So you want to phrase this in I think. It helps answer the question. So I think about how she is wrong, how she had no right to do what she did, how she should have known better. So I'm putting it on her instead of myself. So I'm thinking only about myself in this situation and blaming her. Now, one of the things I want to point out is as a child, we don't have a role in the abuse that we've experienced. But that doesn't mean we don't have a resentment and have responsibility for the resentment and the behaviors that we've created because of the original event. So, dishonest or delusional, I convince myself that I'm being overly sensitive, that the damage and treatment wasn't that big of a deal, and that I might have been unlovable, that I wasn't good enough. And it's funny, after I wrote these, I realized my mother used to say things like, you're being too sensitive, or it's no big deal, or if you were going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Like she just would just invalidate my feelings. So number 4 is about fear of not getting what I want or losing what I have. What fears come up? I am afraid my mother will die and not see me for who I honestly am. She will believe the untruths and lies she has been fed and that she isn't loving enough to make the difference that I need her to make. So that's my fear about my mom and the resentment that I have. So when original event occurred, where am I responsible or accountable? As a child, I left that blank, and that's how we would do that with any childhood situation. But currently, my responsibility is, I believe, an unrecovered mother's lies and excuses in order to not see the truth of who I truly am. So that's my part in the resentment issue. What harm did I cause this person? Meaning, how did I harm my mother? Most likely through my resentment. And I only checked off emotional and mental. I never physically harmed my mother. I did not do anything spiritual with my mother, but I did emotionally affect her because I would play emotional games with her, which would include her mind. I would play manipulative games and try to get her to do things for me. What harm, if any, did I do people around event or resentment, and how I involved them with a negative impact? So these are the people around me, which of course is my family. I tried to prove I was lovable by making my siblings less desirable. I would try to get them in trouble. I would compare my accomplishments to their failures. I was always there to take care of my mom in a very people-pleasing way. And I'd like to say that was when I was a child, but that still is going on as adults. It's still happening. My defects list my character defects around this resentment. Not all of my defects, just the ones that pertain to what's going on here. And you don't have to put out a full-on list. 4, 5, 6 is plenty. And I listed manipulative, people pleaser, troublemaker, delusional, and dishonest. Why do I hold on to this resentment? What benefit or value do I get out of it? So, what does it get me to have this resentment? Well, I hold on to it because if I let go, I won't get her love as I believe is necessary to love myself and others. I'll be abandoned again. So I'm under the false belief that as long as I carry around this anger towards her, I still have a chance to get what I need from her. Like it's going to motivate her to finally love me. And that was an interesting answer also because that's how my father ruled. You had to earn his love, or you could manipulate his love. So then my real role in holding on to this resentment and negative feelings, I don't protect myself in traumatic events because I am waiting for someone else to come and protect me when it is actually me that I'm waiting for. So this is called turnaround. The flip went from my mother wasn't protecting me through the traumatic events, and now it's actually that I'm not protecting myself. I'm waiting on a 93-year-old woman with dementia to protect me from things that she couldn't protect me from in her 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So the insanity is in my ballpark. It's not my mother's. And the interesting thing is my mother would probably say, "Oh, I'm all those things, I don't know why you think that. I'm everything that you need." And maybe she's right. I don't know. But the point is, the resentment that I feel in my mother's presence is towards myself, that I didn't pick up the pieces that she never could and carry my own flag. And when I feel that anger and that rage, it's at myself. It started against her as a child, but I grew up and left home, moved away, did all those right things. So it's insane that I would blame my mother for the way I'm behaving now or for the way I'm feeling. So I hope that's helpful as far as how to answer the questions. And if there's anything that anyone wants to ask, please feel free.
When I resent my mother for, yeah, when I resent my mother for being a controlling narcissist, So what is my deep belief about who I am? That I am a great man and I should always be respected. Um, so my pride, how do I want other people to see me being treated? I want people to always see me being treated with respect. Ambition, what do I want to happen? I want to be supported and encouraged. Um, Security, I need gifts at times and emotional uplift because I'm a great man. Personal relations, how do I expect this relationship should be? I expect my mother to be supportive, and I expect my mother to be always helpful. And then sex, gender, what is my belief about my mother? I did my mother. I didn't really want to do a woman, so I didn't know.
Yeah, mother's perfect.
Yeah. So I said a real mother would be helpful every time. And then what is my affected value? I wish she would pay me back the money that she borrowed when I was a teenager. She still owes me money from, from when I was 15, and, yeah, she pretends like she doesn't. So one, self-esteem. My fear that's tied to that is that my need for her support will destroy me.
Yeah.
So that fear is actually tied to the past. Um, so pride, like my mother will continue to try to compete with me and will try to use me. That's one of my fears. Um, with my ambition that my mother doesn't care about me at all. Number four, I will continue to need validation. Number five, my mother will never be supportive. I don't know why I skipped six. I think I skipped six because I just felt it was kind of strange, the sex gender thing. So I skipped six, but I did seven. Um, I wish, yeah. My fear is that she will never pay me back, and that I now also owe her money, and that I will never pay her back, like the amount that I owe her. Um, so I did that. Forget about it. I'll do the four. Can I do four too, or?
Absolutely. If
Oh,
you're ready to do it, yeah.
yeah. So I when I resented my mother for being controlling or abusive, the self-seeking behavior that I've exhibited, and it's really not. It is well. I'm not going to couch it. I gossip about her to other family members,
Okay.
which is not that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Self-centered thinking. Um, I've been very, very angry with her as an adult. Like I'm an adult. I'm no longer a child. She did whatever she did when I was a child, but I am an adult and have been an adult for at least, 3 decades or more. And yeah, so I was self-destructive. I ate poorly. I did a lot of different things. I have all of her addictions, but I did that. She didn't force that on me. I did that. And yeah. So dishonest or delusional, I'm living in the past and recreating it in the future. And I think like a lot of my acting out on, especially like concurrently on the money stuff, probably brings up anxiety with her, because she's in her twilight years and I still mirror a lot of her financial behavior. Let's see. I'm afraid I'll never have a healthy relationship, really, like with women, because I created a whole kind of way to deal with her relationship with women because of my relationship with her. Like mirroring,
Right.
trying to avoid, in order to avoid being hurt by her, my father. Like that's kind of tinged how I've dealt with relationships, because like they either end up being like her or my father. So a lot of times I've tried to avoid them for many, many years.
Yeah.
So live a life of lack, and then also that I've kind of like lived a life of lack, mirroring what she's done.
Mm.
So where am I accountable or responsible for my feelings? So yeah, the stuff under 18, I'm not going to get into that. So I go to the hardware store still looking for milk.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my bad. And I used to be one of those kids sitting outside of those meetings when she used to go to meetings, and so I've heard that. I'm sure I even heard that when I was a teenager. But I still go to the hardware store looking for milk, even though it's been many, many years. What harm did I cause this person? I think like emotional feelings, I currently do owe her money, mental and spiritual. So like even though I think she's got her different issues that as I said, I don't really think she enjoys the fact that I ended up basically having all of her addictions, acting out all of her addictions, and making up variations of her mistakes that she tried to tell me, well, hey, don't do that. But I ended up doing every single addiction I ended up having it. So I don't know that, what I mean, my kind of maybe acting out on all of them is something that she was, yeah, I want him to do that, even though I do, even though she has her stuff, because this is about me. So what harm, if any, am I, like the gossip thing? Like one of the ways I've tried to punish her is like I'm good and she's sick, and then me and these other family members, we're good because she's sick and she's crazy. But the truth is that that what I've discovered, and it's not necessarily here, she's actually saner than some of the people that I've gossiped with her about. Like because she was the person who was actually, sort of like acting out on the chemical addiction and other addiction, and some of these crazy Al-Anons in my family are really, really really, crazy. I almost cursed, but really they're pretty crazy. So like talking about her that's not sane behavior. Oh, we're better than my mother. That's not helpful. Um, my character defects: gossip, superiority, false pride, sabotage. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like let me punish her by torching my life. Why do I hold on to this resentment? So I can justify my poverty and failure by blaming her for my addiction. So
Good.
it's her fault. So I can just do this until I die and just say it's her fault.
Yep.
Um, and my real role, I want to live in the past because the future is terrifying. Yeah. So
All right. Let's talk about the real role. Go to your perceived role.
okay.
Read it off.
Um, I would say abused child probably or victim.
Tie it into the controlling narcissism.
Okay. Um, so yeah, I want to live in the past and blame her for her past alcoholism and narcissism, uh, which happened when I was under 18, um, and just kind of live in that time period before I was 18, and blame her for that and spend the rest of my life blaming her for the first 18 years of my life.
All right. So when you look at 1 through 4 on
I
the
mean, that's not what I put, but is that what you mean? Like something like that? Because I don't know if I'm feeling that right now. The first 18 years, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it like now. This is like a resentment, like that I have for her now. So I'm not
okay.
really, yeah.
Yep. So often the real role is the opposite of your perceived role. And what that means is if you're coming into this and you've been an abused child and it's because she was a narcissist and she was controlling, um, then you are going to see your own role in this as you are controlling and perhaps even narcissistic yourself. That's how the turnaround happens. We take the information that we hold about the person that upsets us And when we turn it completely around, it points back at ourselves, which is why the perceived role and the number two, which is why you resent the person, are very important that you word them properly and that they cover what you're actually feeling within the resentment.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, like, I don't identify with that. So I
Yeah,
would,
I don't think you do either. But
I
per
would say, I would say for, I mean, like, I mean, for this resentment, I said for being controlling or abusive, but I mean, of the choices I have, I kind of feel like an adult, more like an abandoned person or a misunderstood person. Um,
okay. So
you know,
that would
because
ring.
I don't identify as a narcissist that,
No,
I'm at the center of the planet. No.
no. So, but you could identify with abusive and controlling towards yourself. Like you might feel like you abuse yourself, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
similar way to what your mother did to you.
yeah. I do it to myself. Yeah.
There you go. So that's your real role. That's the turnaround. That's where you end up. You're in that role that you're resenting. So when you do the resentment prayer, and you can do some set aside prayer work too, you start letting go of these roles. You ask for help to let go of the roles, because the resentment that you're carrying is actually towards yourself. And you're going to be the first recipient of the damage of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because that's the other one that I did today about me. But yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Um, this is a sentence that, or a couple that I picked up from last week's, and it starts out because I'm going to do a 3 and a 4, if that's okay.
Yep.
We're starting to realize how heavily the ego has dominated and disrupted our lives. Operating from the ego leaves us highly vulnerable. Even a minor setback can cause us to spiral out of control.
Yep.
Okay, well, this is column 3, and the resentment is with my 16-year-old grandchildren. They're
Okay.
twins.
Oh,
Okay.
so it's two. Okay.
Yeah, boy and a girl. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, and this is for not showing up for lunch when my cousin was here from Sweden. Okay. This was in January. And I'm still I don't know, can't seem to get over it.
Hmm.
Self-esteem. What is my deep belief about who I am? A loving, generous, supportive grandparent, and I make holidays special with gifts and food. The fear, I'm not the favorite grandparent. My husband played with them more when they were younger, and I did housework. And uh, the other grandma is closer to them. Um, 2, pride. How do I want other people to see me being treated? Grandkids show up when grandma and grandpa visit, and they want to spend time with them, and they realize how much they are loved and give hugs and smile, and they love talking to us, and they act courteous and grateful. Okay, so 2, was that 2? Okay. Uh, Fear is that grandma and grandpa are no longer cool. They are independent, uh, and they have independent lives, and they cherish their privacy. The ambition, what would you like to happen? To live that day over, that my cousin was or available for them, and that they would show up and make me proud.
All right.
And
So you're gonna write it within the context of what's in there. So I want
mm,
my grandchildren to
mm,
treat me, and you could put worthy of showing up for the lunch that I made special for them.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it doesn't have really anything to do with the other person. Okay. The fear is, oh, yeah, that won't happen. Okay. Security. I need my grandkids to hang out when we're visiting. Why? Because we miss them and we want to be part of their lives. 4, the fear is it will be years before they appreciate us. Personal relations. I expect, grandchildren to show affection and converse with us. 5, fear is they pay cursory attention and feel obligated to spend time rather than want to. Sex, gender. Grandchildren should think their grandma and grandpa are valuable. And 6, they won't appreciate us for 10 years. And emotional wallet value, emotional times of crying, feeling sad, and a little lonely and left out.
Take your time.
The fear is that I won't forget about it. And I always feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I know, probably seems silly.
We really appreciate your pain that you're in. We completely are there with you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Perceived role is forgotten, set aside grandma. And did this event happen? Yes. Okay. Disregarding other person, entity, whatever. Self-seeking, acting on my own behalf, self-centered behavior. The self-centered behavior was thought that my feelings of importance of the event, my ego, wanted my cousin to see my impressive grandchildren. Selfish thinking about myself. Thought I had control of the event. I tried other ways, to get this meeting going, but this arrangement was supposed to work out, to meet for lunch. This was second best to me. Open. Let's see. Oh, when they didn't show up, I wasn't mad, or I wasn't mad about it. Wasn't for me to yeah. It was important for me to introduce them to this most important dear person. Dishonest. Okay, I appeared forgiving, not affected when it wasn't true. They didn't show up, but I just, I didn't express anger or anything like that. 4, fear of not getting what I want or losing what I have when I feel this resentment. Fear of angering my son and the family. Being uncomfortable in future gatherings. Where was I wrong? My ego, very important meeting for me, but teenagers lacked this understanding. I did not relay the vital importance of the meeting. And then what was the part I played original event? I pretended and played forgiving grandma, and I was mildly surprised at their absence. Now I still seem to feel emotional. Like um not letting it go. Okay, physical body. What feeling did my behavior cause? I think my behavior didn't really change much toward them. I mean, maybe a little avoidance for a while.
Okay.
5. What harm did this cause? And I'm not sure, like if my cousin felt hurt, I don't see a lot of harm here. Okay.
So the harm would not be what your grandchildren did. It would be your resentment that could harm other people.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you maybe after the event you were yelling at your husband about it, or you were talking to your other, if you have other children, or something like that, that would how.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I probably might have done something like I know I expressed it to several friends,
Okay.
you know. Yeah, so that would be the harm to be kind of
Yeah, it's like emotional vomit, they call it, where you just
uh-huh,
and you just all over everybody,
uh-huh. Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I always try to find the sympathetic people,
Hmm.
that would understand,
Yeah.
and say, yeah, yeah, no. Well, even my cousin, uh, your grandchildren, she's going through the same thing. It's really hard.
Hmm. I think, I don't know about Susan, Mark, and Amy, but we're all grandparents in this room. There's a lot of grandparents in here, so we get what you're saying. Yeah, we're there with
Okay.
you. Yeah,
Okay. So where was I? That was the hurt. Okay. List any other fears that I've become aware of. Um, People will think I'm selfish and petty for being resentful about this. Okay. Guess not. 7. Character defects I've become aware of. Okay. One is of being vague about expectations.
good.
Um, yeah. So that is
How
a
about how
character
about how about dishonest, Anita?
dishonest.
Hmm. Were you honest with people after this happened?
No, I just, I didn't like, you don't want to cause waves. And besides that, the parents were very, very, well, very understanding about it, but they also really wanted to be clear about how they're trying to honor their, you know,
Oh,
these kids, you know, 16 years old.
the entitled children? Yeah, I do know. I do know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Let them decide. Hmm. I know.
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
let them decide what color book covers to get, not whether or not they see their grandmother. Let's keep it proportionate.
Well, thank you for that. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, but okay, so my real role
Well, wait a minute.
then,
Why do you hold on to the resentment?
oh yeah, I guess I'm not I wrote down that I'm not sure, and I would like to let it go. My ego is just too sensitive, you know.
Okay. Maybe if you're that sensitive, you hold on to it, hoping it will resolve in some fashion,
Hmm.
or your grandchildren will understand that you're not feeling great about it and they'll approach you with an apology, or they'll make you feel special like you wanted to feel. It could be any of those things.
Yeah, they're so sweet. I mean, they're great kids. This was just the one big time that I
Who is your child, the mother or the father?
The father.
Okay, so you probably have a resentment with him to do later.
Okay. That would be, oh boy. Mm.
Yeah,
Well, geez,
yeah.
they're all great people, So anyway, the role I put down, my real role is that I want to feel like a martyr instead of this forgotten, set aside grandma. Um, Justified, am I putting too much importance on this meeting with my cousin? I wanted to please her. Maybe, you know, I don't know. But that's
So
that's what
will
I
you
thought about
will you read number 3 again for me on the second page?
on the second page.
Yeah.
Okay, how was I dishonest or misrepresenting myself or reality? I appeared forgiving and not affected when they weren't there.
Okay. That's your real role. Your real role was your belief is that you're upset because the children didn't show up for you, but what really happened was when the children didn't show up for you, you did not show up for yourself.
Mhm.
Right? You didn't stand up for yourself.
Very typical.
I figured you'd say that. Yeah. So these children not showing up, as devastating as it feels, was to show you something about yourself that's been something you've carried for a long time, and it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Yeah, so helpful. I really needed help with this.
Oh yeah, because it's so emotional. When we
Well,
get that emotional, it's hard to think about things in the proper way because
mhm.
we get flooded.
Yeah, and I had to spend a lot of time
Yeah.
and just sit there and think, what am I feeling? What, you know,
So you
that type of
felt
stuff.
like potentially that you were unworthy or not valuable or not cared about enough. And when we get down to the bottom and we do the turnaround, it's yourself
Mhm.
that's not doing it for you because nobody can do it for us.
No,
Nobody's coming.
nobody's coming. Yeah.
Literally in your case, they did not
Hmm.
even show up. But that's the hard and cold truth of being human.
Hmm.
We have to show up for ourselves.
Hmm.
And it's a really hard lesson to learn, especially when we're dealing with our darling little grandchildren that we just love to the ends of the earth.
I know the only two that I have, and I'm
Yeah,
lucky to have them.
exactly. So they're very precious, very
Yeah.
precious. So when we feel like something didn't go the way it was supposed to, we we think it's them doing that to us, but we're doing it to ourselves.
I
Thank you.
just wanted to thank Anita. It was like looking in a mirror for me. I just had my granddaughter and five of her best friends here for 5 days when she told me there would be two of them. And yeah, so and I only raised a boy. I have no experience with girls. Now I'm grateful to God I only raised a boy. Um, but I just wanted to say it was like you were reading my mind. And I spent all morning saying to myself, when I was her age, I would have sent a thank you note. I would have, the other girls, I would have brought something to the house, a little gift, a little token. I've just been doing this and in my mind. So you read my mind. So I am so grateful you were open and honest about this. I don't know if it was valuable for anybody else with
Oh, it was.
teenage grandchildren, but this was like fabulous for me. So I just want to thank you.
All right. Would anyone like to do the closing prayer? Anyone have anything in mind?
I have one in mind.
Go for it.
It's from Clutters Anonymous. It's called the Organized Life Serenity Prayer.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. God, grant us the serenity of an organized life with leisure time, courage to change our habits to ensure these joys, and the wisdom to be flexible. Amen.
Whoa.
That is fantastic, huh?
Yeah,
Pretty
thank you,
nice, huh?
Susan.
Thank
Oh,
you.
God,
Wow.
thank you. I love that. I have chills.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And you can go on their website and get it if you want.
And what was the group?
Clutters
Clutters
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Yeah,
Letters and
CLA.
CLA. Wow.
It's all about clarity there.
Wow.
Love that. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.